Canelo Alvarez gets that unanimous decision win over Jaime Munguia, the young fellow Mexican lion. Obviously put up a great fight. I liked a lot of what Jaime Munguia did, but Canelo, as most of us thought, would end up just being too tough. I thought that there was a chance that, Canelo would stop him. I knew that Munguia would probably get dropped for the first time in his career, but I was curious to see if Canelo would be able to put that stamp on it. He was not able to do that, and part of me thinks that, he didn't want to knock out a fellow Mexican, but there's also another part of me that thinks that, Canelo may just be at his peak and maybe on that a little bit of a decline to the point where that stamina just doesn't hold up the way it used to. But Canelo has always fought that way. You could even argue that maybe Canelo's still in his prime, but ultimately, what is he gonna do next? Because we're hearing a lot of chitter chatter. I'm around a lot of boxing media, people that report and do a lot of journalism behind the sport. So there's a lot of chitter chatter about Edgar Berlanga being the next fight. Even Edgar Berlanga, posted about it on Twitter, put in the Puerto Rican flag and then the Mexican flag in September. So that may be the fight that we get at the end of 2024. But is that what we asked for? No, it's not. We want to be seeing the David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez fight going down, but this is the sport of boxing. It gets a little tricky with the finances. Canelo has been on the record saying that he wants $200 million, no less. He would not fight David Benavidez unless he can, agree to a contract where Canelo will get 200 M's. If not, no fight. But Canelo's been talking a lot, saying that I could beat him on the same night. He went on Stephen A. Smith's show saying that he could beat Munguia and David Benavidez in the same night. And those are fighting words, but I'd like to see Canelo do more action than, talking, because ultimately Canelo is a great Mexican fighter. He has a strong case that he's the best Mexican fighter of all time. I have it like, for me, I got Marquez as my #1 Mexican fighter of all time. That's just me. And this is coming from a Manny Pacquiao fan, so obviously we know what he did to Manny, but still got to give credit where it's due. But for Canelo Alvarez, as much as he's accomplished in the sport, I think that he really does have to make that David Benavidez fight happen, at least before he retires, right? I mean, let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you guys think that David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez have to fight in order for Canelo to kind of solidify and, really be satisfied with his riding off into the sunset and calling it a career and hanging up the boxing gloves. So I really, for me personally, I do think that's the case, that Canelo does have to fight David Benavidez to solidify that. If not, fight a guy like Terence Crawford. Those are two great fights. If you're not going to fight one of those guys, I don't think you're going to get the credit that, you deserve, at least at the latter end of your career. You're still a Hall of Famer. You're still a great fighter. Still have an argument for the best Mexican fighter of all time. But for me, I need to see that Benavidez or Terence Crawford fight, or else it's like, nah, who cares? No, no offense. I'm just saying, he's gonna make the Hall of Fame no matter what. He's still the cash cow of the sport of boxing. He's still Saul Canelo Alvarez, millions of dollars. He's the face. He's kind of the face of Mexican boxing right now. I'm not gonna say that he's the face of boxing, because I think you guys know that I've been saying Tank Davis is the face of boxing. But Canelo has accomplished so much, everything that he's gone through, everything that he learned from that single fight with Floyd Mayweather, when everyone's saying he's a little bit too green, but he took it upon himself to take that big risk. Fight Floyd Mayweather at a lighter weight where maybe he wasn't the most comfortable, maybe he wasn't feeling as strong as he usually does, but still, taking that as an experience, taking it as a learning lesson. It's never really a loss if you're able to learn from it. And Canelo did more than that. We saw so much change as a result of that loss to Floyd Mayweather. So that first loss in Canelo's career really did change the trajectory of, not only his long-term style, but the way he approached the boxing game from a business perspective. You think that, like, he'd be asking for these amounts of money if it wasn't, everything, seeing how Floyd paved the way, how guys like Oscar paved the way, showing that you're the A side. I think that, Canelo's a great fighter. I just really do think if that David Benavidez fight happens, then he's really going to get the credit he deserves, win, lose, or draw. That really does show that you don't care about what people say. Like, you're literally ducking no smoke. If everyone's saying, fight David, and you go out there and say, okay, I'll fight David, and he's that much bigger than you, that much younger than you, and he might be faster than you. So it's a tough fight for Canelo. But if he's willing to take that David Benavidez fight, my respect for him would, you know, be astronomical. Because right now, as much as, you know, the Munguia fight was a spectacle for especially the Mexican fans, I understand that. But like at the end of the day, the real boxing fans know that that's not the fight that we asked for. You picked the wrong Mexican. We wanted the Mexican monster, not Jaime Munguia. I'm still happy Munguia, you know, got you know, probably the biggest paycheck of his life in fighting the cash cow of the sport of boxing. So he's gonna enjoy that. But at the end of the day, I just knew that would happen. I knew he didn't really have a chance against Canelo. He had some success. He looked good, and that's all great. But ultimately, you're too green. Despite, you know, how many fights you have as a pro, you never fought someone on Canelo's level. So that makes it just as much harder to really, you know, even be in position to compete. But he competed. He had some good moments in that fight. I don't want to take that away from him. But, you know, Canelo kind of big broed him, and it showed in that fight that he wasn't going to beat Canelo. And it is what it is. That's just how the sport of boxing is. It showed that there's levels to it, and Canelo just was too much for Munguia. You know, I really do think Canelo could have stopped Munguia if he wanted to. I think he just kind of had mercy on him because he's a fellow Mexican, and I respect that. But at the end of the day, Canelo has to make these big fights happen. When people call for you to fight people that are champions, that's just the way it is. You know, you're supposed to be fighting those guys who are next in line, guys like David Benavidez, and even a guy like Terence Crawford, who's in that conversation for pound #1, like you are. But still, I don't think that, you know, the fights that Canelo's giving us right now are very indicative that he wants to be considered a legend in the sport. I think he has to take those big fights. Guys like Manny Pacquiao, you know, who he took an Earl Spence fight, you know, at the age of +40. So those are the kind of legends that you need to look at it if you're Canelo Alvarez and say, I kind of want to be like that. Not to say that he hasn't, Canelo Alvarez hasn't earned the right to take any fight that he wants. I just think that, you know, at this point in his career where he says he wants to fight for 3, 4, maybe 5, even 5 more years still in the sport, you know, you got to make at least one of those big fights happen between David Benavidez or, you know, choose Terence Crawford. Either one of them, you know, whatever you choose is going to make a lot of money. I would argue that Terence Crawford is a bigger money fight for Canelo, but you know, David Benavidez is ultimately that weight class guy that, you know, they all want to see Canelo in there with. So I understand that, and I'd like to see David Benavidez and Canelo. I just think if he's really chasing money and still wants to get that level of respect, you know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone and fight Terence Crawford. And you know, no matter what the weight is, if Terence Crawford's willing to go up to 68, by all means, make that big fight happen. If he wants to take that risk and come up there, challenge greatness, you know, it'd be a fight of, you know, 2 pound-for-pound legends in the sport of boxing right now. And I think it, you know, I'd probably lean towards Terence in a decision, but you know, Canelo could show Terence that there are weight classes for a reason and kind of big bro him too. It's very possible. I think Terence is just a little bit, you know, too talented. It's a big, you know, jump in skill level from all the opponents that Canelo has been facing. Terence would be one of those guys that's much faster than Canelo, much more dynamic, and yeah, the speed and the timing is what really concerns me for Canelo. I think I'd favor Terence against Canelo, but for Benavidez, I think that's a 50-50 fight. You know, you ask me tomorrow, I'll say David. You ask me today, I'll say Canelo. But you know, still a tremendous fight regardless. I'm just curious to see if we'll ever see it, because you gotta imagine if Canelo really does want to fight for 3, 4, 5 more years, you know, who is he gonna fight? If we've been calling for the David Benavidez fight for the past 2 to 3 years, and he doesn't make that fight happen, you know, what are you actually gonna do? You're gonna go fight Berlanga and then the other Charlo brother, rematch Caleb Plant? Like, I don't know what the plan is exactly. So I'm just curious if he's not gonna take a Benavidez fight. What other options does he see, you know, to the point where boxing's going to get like, okay, we get it, you know, you really don't want to fight him. They're going to call him a duck. That's what's going to happen. As good as Canelo is, it's, you know, a lot of people say it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And you got to use that for this scenario as well. You can't just use it when it's in favor of Canelo, because he's gonna end as a Hall of Famer. I said that earlier in the video, but still, to really solidify yourself, wouldn't you want to take that Benavidez fight even if you're not making 200 million, you know, the sport of boxing will shut up if you fight Benavidez or if you fight Terence Crawford. So take one of those fights, give the fans what they want to see. Congratulations on your win against Jaime Munguia, but let's step up that level of opposition and fight, you know, one of these big dogs. I really want to see Canelo in a big fight. I want to get hyped for it, because as much as I like Munguia, I kind of knew, we all kind of knew what was going to happen. So let me know in the comments who you guys want to see Canelo in there next. I'd love to see Benavidez, but I honestly want to see Terence Crawford in there with him even more. So let me know in the comments who you guys want to see Canelo next, you know, in the ring with, who he should fight next. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. That's going to do it for another Naz Fight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.